sir.
All right, let's get our discussion session started. Manager McGill, would you mind reviewing the agenda items and commission questions? Or no, review the agenda, please. My mistake. Take care of the whole meeting for us.
Guys, just sit back, I'll just
let us know when it's over.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight's agenda, we have the consideration of a resolution authorizing submission of a grant application to the Redevelopment Authority of Allegheny County's Gaming Economic Development Tourism Fund for $500,000. That would be towards the demolition of the south garage, and there is no required match. Also, the consideration of a resolution adopting the fire department's 2026 community risk assessment and standards of cover. You'll hear more about that during discussion. Also, consideration of a resolution adopting the 2026 fire department's strategic plan. We'll also hear about that. Consideration to purchase one 4-wheel drive Ram 2500 truck from Jim Shorty Auto Group and A&H Equipment through the Pennsylvania CoStar's purchasing program. Consideration of a final approval for a land development plan for the Brafferton Field Improvement Project. You've heard a little bit about that during discussion. Ian can supplement that if you need it. Also, consideration of final approval of the land development plan for Middle and Seymour Field renovation project. That also includes the parking area. And then finally, consideration of award for Mount Lebanon's 2026-2027 insurance program. That insurance runs mid-year to mid-year, so that's why it's on tonight's agenda.
All right, boards and authorities. Commissioner Flynn.
So let's see, SHACOG had a meeting last week. I am happy to announce to a couple of those guys over there that SHACOG did approve the purchase of the confined space breathing apparatus. So that the TRT team does have or will have those resources that are available that match Mount Lebanon's resources. Other than that, the organization is moving forward, right? They're still, I would argue, in transition with the new executive director, but he is really building a lot of momentum, trying to do a lot of good work to just, move the organization into the next generation. So all in all, the organization continues to make progress and continues to evolve to meet the needs of the South Hills.
Excellent, thank you. Commissioner Petty?
The Parks and Rec Board, I attended last week. They were reviewing and prioritizing during that meeting the 2026 improvement project. So they kind of focused on that and what their priorities were. So that was the main focus of that meeting.
Commissioner Slaughter Wilson?
Finance talked about retirement funds. We had some guy in from someplace in Philly who manages the retirement funds.
DFM.
Yeah, right. Talking about our retirement funds, which are all in good shape. The thing you should know as commissioners is everything except for one fund is 100% funded and the other is 96% funded, which is extraordinary and something you should all be very happy about.
Excellent, excellent.
That's the big takeaway. And Mertz's meeting is Wednesday night, so tomorrow night. Oh my God, tomorrow night. Too many meetings.
You'll see, the Community Engagement Board will be doing some tabling at Pride in conjunction with the library as they have in the past. And then with the Mount Lebanon Partnership that they're looking forward in taking part with the Uptown Market. They'll typically have a couple people there, and they may also be getting input from the public regarding proposed zoning changes as a way of just getting like a broader perspective on things.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then Outreach had their big fundraiser, which was very successful.
Great.
Yes, it was. All right, resiliency, April meeting, we welcomed on 3 new members, met with OHM to review the zoning update saldo. Tomorrow is our next meeting. There's no action items on there, but I think primarily working to plan the June, doing kind of a workshop planning meeting in June. So tomorrow's to plan that, and that's about it for resiliency. So. Let's see, it looks like we are on to an update on the Emergency Operations Center. So, Chief, you're up.
Okay. Just as background, Commissioner Petty had requested that we provide sort of an overview of the EOC for the commission. You've because we do activate in times of, we have severe storms.
Right.
And it's always good to have the commission be familiar with what that means, who's involved, how the process works. I try to keep commission informed as we go through those events, so that, again, our first responders can focus on the issue at hand. But it's always good for you to have an understanding of the process and how it works, sort of behind the scenes.
Excellent.
Well, you took my whole opening, Mr. McGill, thank you. President, Commissioners, Mr. McGill, appreciate the opportunity to be here. We don't get to do this, but about every 5 years or so, we do an EOC for the commission. But we have a couple new folks, so it's always good to get you involved with it. Emergency management is probably the least attractive thing that the fire department does. It's all about planning and preventing versus mitigating, but occasionally we do have to mitigate, and that is like when the rubber meets the road. So in case you haven't met Deputy Chief Sellner, he is your emergency management coordinator, so he works with the county emergency management and then PEMA and then eventually FEMA. And I'm gonna let him take it away.
All right, thanks. So put together a presentation, kind of a big overview of the whole system, and we kind of finished with the EOC. And Chief Christopher gave you all copies of the slides, so you can follow along. So what is emergency management? So the textbook definition's up there, but really we're there to coordinate the efforts of all the public safety. A common misconception with emergency management is that emergency management is in charge of incidents. We're not. We're a supporting kind of function. We gather all of the entities, the police, fire, municipal staff, public works, and we kind of work together as a team, and we meet in that EOC type function, which we'll get to. The Stafford Act kind of set the framework for how the federal government works. And then the Disaster Recovery Act modified that some more. Again, don't need to go into all that stuff right here because we're here for the EOC. State also has municipal emergency management codes. At the end of this, there's a QR code that you can look and see for your municipal guide to emergency management. But basically all this says is that each municipality, town will appoint some sort of emergency manager and have emergency management staff. And the local EMC, which is myself, make sure we have an EOP, we have staffing for our EOC, and we adopt any precautionary measures, and we do drills, all these things that we typically normally do throughout the emergency management cycle. So our staff is myself, Deputy Chief Morris, who was the former coordinator who stayed on, Lee McCarthy, Lieutenant McCarthy. Chief Christopher was on there, but he's moved off because he's a little busier as a fire chief, so.
We're gonna replace him.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's not an attractive job, so it's very difficult.
Typically, we carry 3. You can have up to 3 official deputy coordinators, but you can have as many unofficial, but typically we'd like to have 3. Laura, Lily is our PIO, and Rachel is our deputy PIO. They help us tremendously with getting our messaging out. So 4 phases: mitigation, preparedness, response, recovery. It's a continuous cycle. We'd like to stay in the mitigation and preparedness as much as possible. Response and recovery are the harder ones. So one of the things we do for mitigation is we participate in the county's hazard mitigation plan, which allows us to be eligible for mitigation funds and recovery funds, which you all adopted
A couple weeks ago
by resolution. So that was a big thing. There was a holdup with FEMA for a little while, but we're good now. So I need to send that in, and then we'll be on the books with that, which is good. Preparedness, we work as emergency management with the school district, the nursing homes, hospitals. We look at all their emergency plans. They look at ours. We make sure they work. A lot of the care facilities will get kind of boilerplate EOPs, emergency operations plans, and we kind of talk them through like what they might want to do to actually make it work should it happen. There's a lot of, so some of them are just bigger corporations and they don't have the local touch to it.
Do you ever drill with them?
We do. So we practice evacuations with them. The hospital, we participate with the hospital. We do a drill every so often with them. In the school district, we practice evacuation drills every year with them, like a mass evacuation reunification.
Their EOPs, emergency operations plans are incredible. You wouldn't think about the thing, we have to think about the things that you don't necessarily want or have to think about. So let's just say the Concordia loses power, or they lose water, or they have a massive, structural damage. Like, how do they deal with that internally?
Right.
And they depend on us to help them formulate those plans. And what he meant by boilerplate, there was one a couple years ago, they had in case a tsunami occurred. Because it was just a boilerplate. We're not gonna have a tsunami, but, but we need to worry about flooding and those kinds of things, and who do you call, so.
And typically, and we work through this with a lot of these facilities, is that they say, well, we're just gonna call you for the emergency. And we're there to support, and fire, police, EMS are gonna be,
Takes too long.
they're gonna
already
be busy
it.
doing
Yeah.
stuff if there's an emergency. So we help work through those plans,
Sure.
like moving people, because, we'll
Yeah.
support them, but at the actual time of the event, we might not be able to at the
Do you test like their backup generators and stuff like that, or to see
That's
if
not
that's?
under fire prevention. So
okay.
for fire prevention, they're required to do generator tests and all the fire alarms, sprinklers, everything. And they submit them to a third-party vendor that actually collects them all and then tells us when something's late. It tells us any deficiencies with it so we can follow up on them and get them fixed.
So a response, again, Malema, as if you've ever met Chris Butler, my former boss, he so aptly called us, we're just a supporting agency. We don't run the incidents, all the acronyms listed below there and more that aren't up there, they're the ones that are doing the work. The emergency management supports and coordinates the efforts, so that's just a common misconception there. So response, again, we just declared a disaster for the hurricane, or no, excuse me, snowstorm.
Tsunami.
They last 7 days, the initial one, until extended, and then they're for 30-day increments.
I'm not sure that it covers it, but the reason why we do that, so everybody knows FEMA, right? So everybody knows FEMA and FEMA dollars. In order to get FEMA money, Pennsylvania has to declare a disaster. In order for Pennsylvania to declare that disaster, they have to have so much damage. In order for Pennsylvania to declare that, the counties have to declare a disaster. And the county has to meet a certain, fund.
Yeah.
And then the municipalities have to declare a disaster. So it's from bottom up. So we declare a disaster, all of the towns in Allegheny County declare a disaster, then the county can do it. And if we hit a certain threshold, that's when federal funding takes in.
And as Chief Brown, the Emergency Service Coordinator for Allegheny County, always says, the disaster declaration also acts as a communication tool to the community that we're doing everything that we can. We're taking whatever event it is seriously. So, well, the snowstorm, we didn't meet any sort of threshold. It kind of sent a message to the community that, hey, we're putting everything towards this, just so you know. So that's why we did it for the snowstorm.
The other thing that disaster, and I don't want to get into the weeds, but a lot of the disaster declaration allows the municipality to have the ability to go outside of contracts as well. So if we needed
Right,
massive snow removal and we only had one contractor, we could hire several,
right.
even under contract. So that helps public works out.
So recovery, different ways we have for recovery. So COVID-19, we recovered over $200,000 in funds. We did a lot of documentation for the whole municipality. It was a lot of work, but we were able to recoup funds. I don't know too many communities in the area that did as well as we did with that. So kudos to Emergency Management 2020. So the different types of recovery. So we do. Chief Christopher mentioned the damages. So individual is for the different types, we have public assistance and individual. So different thresholds are set by the state and government for different things. So when a disaster happens, we'll go around and do damage assessments of whatever is damaged. So commercials versus residential, some things, if they meet a threshold, there's certain criteria for damaged, and we've trained a lot of our folks and firefighters on that. So we gather that information and we submit that to the county, and if it meets, total sum meets threshold, then people could be eligible for it. And typically that's just a loan. Some people might be better off getting a loan on their own, but it's something that we can make available for them. So that's part of the recovery. Exercises, so typically we do them every 3 years, tabletop or full scale. We did an active shooter with the school in 2018, and we did a tabletop exercise in 2021. We do drills with the hospital, school districts, and nursing homes annually with at least one of those agencies. We're not just for emergencies, so community or emergency management, large events require coordination, 4th of July parades, all these things. For the draft, I was talking with some of the Pittsburgh emergency management folks, looking at their IAPs and incident action plans, all the stuff they're putting together. Just because it's not an emergency doesn't mean there doesn't need to be a plan. And
Right.
we're contingency people, so we think of all the worst things and what could go wrong. The worst thing that could happen is you have a parade and then no one knows what to do. So we like to create plans for that, should something happen. Anytime if the president were to come to town, we'd be involved in some sort of emergency management function there. So where do you all come in? So there is training for you. With all of the federal funding that's been for FEMA, that's been influx, it's trickled down to the county level. So called ICS 402. G402 is like an in-person, typically they do it online as well, but it's kind of an overview of the whole system. It's a good class. Some folks have taken that. The others, ICS 700 and 100, they get more into the nitty-gritty of the stuff, but you would get the same thing, more of an overview in 402. So in the near future, we'll be reaching out to you all. We're gonna need to do an audit of everything that's been done. I'm not sure if this is a newer commission since the last time we did it. So
Yeah. I haven't done
yeah, we'll make sure that you have it, because we are.
all need it.
Yeah, so we are a NIMS compliant community, so we have a resolution
it.
for
What does
that.
NIMS stand for?
National Incident Management System.
Okay.
And ICS
Came about after Hurricane Katrina.
it came from the FAT manual, Federal Acronym Terminology Manual. So
FEMA has acronyms for everything.
I'm married military.
Yeah.
You can't top it. It's everything.
all right, so EOC, why we're all here, right? So we have three states. So steady state is kind of where we are every day. We're kind of monitoring everything. Partial activation, which is kind of where we were for the winter storm and the April storm last year. And then a full activation is where we're either all sitting in one room or it's some sort of hybrid virtual thing where we're talking to multiple folks. Typically when that activation happens, we notify municipal manager, police chief, fire chief, MRTSA, public works director, and we need to notify ACES, Allegheny County Emergency Services, let them know that we're doing this. From there, all those folks will notify the people that they need to notify, and we'll either bring them in or they'll just be notified and briefed. When we do that, the EOC, we typically have meetings, we create operational periods. So for the snowstorm, we had 12-hour operational periods. So every 12 hours, we would reassess, we'd have meetings, we would make a plan. Mr. McGill would give us objectives for the town. The number one objective for the snowstorm, besides clearing the snow, was communication, which I think we did a very good job with that. So we set our objectives, and then fire chief, police chief, public works, they all kind of go forth and carry out their part of that mission. And emergency management kind of operates as just making sure everybody's together in the same spot. We've traditionally used an ICS-like EOC. which incident command system. We moved more to an incident support-based EOC. So incident support-based EOC is just what it is, we support. So the Public Works Director acts in the role of Public Works versus forcing them into another position. We had the Recreation Department Director in the old model as a logistics person, where that would be perfect for Phil. He's a great logistics guy. He can get anything you
Yeah.
need from.
Yeah.
So you kind of work that into the roles. Yeah, so other issue with the ICS-like EOC is you tend to get into the weeds with the incident. And that's not the goal. So with the support-based model, there's a policy group, which would be a lot of you, the fire chiefs, police chiefs, where they sit together and they make those goals and they send that information to the people, boots on the ground. And the EOC and the EOC manager just kind of manage that stuff, whatever resources we need to support their mission. We provide that. We can reach out to the county, to the state. One thing from the snowstorm that we learned, and I'm not sure the school district was aware, that we can support them too. We were in communication with them, but they needed some equipment, but they didn't really know where to ask. And after action, we let them know, like, hey, just reach out to us and we'll support however we can. I don't think they were so sure of how far we could go, but that's all cleared up, which is good. So that's how we operate the EOC. So recent action, kind of we talked about these. The windstorm, that was a big one. We really only operated as an EOC for one night. That was kind of the first like fly by the seat of our pants night. We kind of all sat in a room, worked it out, and it worked really well. Then we started refining it, and we keep refining it.
We had this in our mind for about 4 years and just never had the perfect storm per se to use it.
Yeah.
And we all looked at each other and said, I think it's now.
So yeah, it worked out well. We're still refining it. Better coordination so we can all see the police, fire, public works, all see what we're doing. And it's only going to get better as we introduce more technology to it. So that worked really well. That storm, I was on the county's EOC for 7 days, listing addresses for outages
Yeah.
to Duquesne Light.
Yeah.
Until they finally listened. When I actually listed every single address, they started moving a little faster, which was good. So that was good. And then this Winter Storm Fern, I thought went even better because we built from the first one and we're going to continue to build on that EOC. So right now our EOC is set up, we have a small ENC annex next to the learning center in the second floor of the fire station. And then the learning center, the classroom, we'll move some tables around. If you've ever been in there, there's some signs that say different things. It's still kind of that ICS-like model. And we move some tables around and that would be our formal EOC. The backup EOC is here.
So, the only problem with the windstorm was the 9/11 fail where you couldn't get through on 9/11. What have we done to
That was Verizon.
make sure that?
Yeah, it was not Verizon. So and I think Chief Haberman and I talked about this a little bit. 911 has capacity, right? And if you take the capacity that they have compared to New York City, if the New York City had the same event, they would have been struggling as well, just because at the same percentage of increase. So they don't have the capacity. They set themselves up through the National 911. They have very specific guidelines and things that they have to follow as well. So we did lose the phone system, which is a challenge, right? That like if Verizon goes down, there's nothing that unfortunately we can really do about that other than use, other means. So we have the municipal phone lines and the municipal Facebook page, and we've done a couple other things to collect calls. The most important thing that I could tell if your constituents get a hold of you is to tell them to either call 911 or you call the fire department or the emergency management center and let us know what's going on so that we can handle it from there. A lot of times we actually have we get non-emergency calls to the fire station. They get non-emergency calls to the police station. Mr. McGill gets phone calls on his personal cell phone or people stopping at his house, telling him about stuff. So we do the best we can, but there's only so much we can do in regards to 911.
Especially for the storm, I had certain commissioners, and you were one of them,
I know. I remember.
sending me text messages about,
Right.
hey.
This is
going
down,
on
that's
here.
down,
It
sure.
was great, because then I could share it there. So again, it's not an ideal way to
Right.
communicate,
Right,
but again, it was effective, and it
Yep.
did away with a lot of the duality that sometimes we see in those types of events, because, it just, again, I think during I give Larry a lot of credit for the last winter storm that we have. I don't think he actually slept for 48 hours. But the communication, you could see the improvement from the
the time
April
before,
storm
yeah.
to, just because we had refined some things. And every one of these, we go through, I don't know, they used to call it a hot wash, but now it's an after action.
After action.
We go through and lessons learned, right? What went well, what didn't go well, what could we do better, how do we do that next time? So we're always trying to, again, improve every response. And these guys get the lion's share of that credit. And Public Works, quite honestly, a lot of the times in these types of events, they are really sort of in addition to police and fire, but they're really the kind of our frontline responders.
oh, yeah, sure.
Because they're out there
Sure.
removing trees
Trees
and
and all that kind of stuff.
blocking off roadways or doing whatever needs to be done.
Maybe it's just a communication thing that, we have something on the website of, if you can't get through 911, I don't know, I'm making this up on the fly and I'm never to be relied on for these things. Just throwing it out there is like, some better minds need to think it through, but something that pops up when you're in an emergency situation, if you can't get through to 911, you do this. Because,
That's something I brought up at the station
Yeah.
right after the storm
Yeah.
was, and I think this is a more of a
Yeah.
cultural communication and education issue, right? Growing up in the Bay Area, right, and having small children, you are taught, you have 3 days of supplies, and you know that you might have to do without. Right, we had children in preschool, right, your children had to
Yeah.
have 3 days worth of items at the school, right, because you might not be able to get to them. But that's part of the baked culture, right, you have your emergency bag, you are prepared. We don't do that here, we don't
That's right.
have the earthquakes, we don't have the.
Right.
So when there is an emergency, right, the expectation is that 911 works, right, because it just does
Yeah.
here, 99% of the time. So, but that one time,
but it doesn't.
it doesn't, right? How do we communicate those emergencies that frankly are a discipline about participating in a community? And that's hard, right? It is a communication issue, but I think it's one that needs to get out ahead, rather than waiting for when the emergency happens. But how do we build that program?
That's the preparation part.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get people to prepare for that. The challenge that we have with sending them somewhere else from 911 is a couple things. Number one, we don't have the training to be telecommunicators. Like
Right.
they have very specific training, and that could be a very long, slippery slope that we might not want to go down. So there's a lot to consider whenever we give different forms of communication.
And the PIO Laura for the storms, she'll put up a website or web link
Yeah,
to the storms.
she does, yeah.
And that's super helpful. The last storm that was coming in was supposed to be the same, it was, a 3 marginal storm or whatever, and nothing happened. But she spun it up and was just ready to hit send or whatever you do to put on something on a website. So that was super helpful. So I get constant weather alerts and storm alerts, so I'm bugging these guys anytime something's even close. So communication is key, because that's, people want to know what's going on, they want water and they want a bathroom, and they're happy, so. So here's what we're, to wrap up quickly, EM in 2026, so we built the pandemic cash from 2020, we still maintain that. So one of the things, as we all know, there was a shortage of supplies, so we maintain a pandemic cache of just PPE. And we recycle that through running EMS calls, so it stays fresh, so we keep that. We always look at our emergency operations plan, we have to look at that this year, that and the continuity of operations plan. We don't have one for the municipality, which is something we need to work on and start working on that this year. I know every individual municipality has something, but it's something we need to work on together. More of awareness for emergency management is kind of a municipal support function, so when we do big events, this emergency management has a role in that. So it just we haven't really done that in the past. And then EOC updates, we're always looking to make updates with that to make it more efficient and better. The last thing, I had no idea how I was presenting. I thought it was gonna be a big screen, but you can scan that. That is the PEMA's guide. You have it in your thing. That's PEMA's guide to emergency management. It's about a 50-page document that PEMA puts out for elected officials. It tells you everything you need to know. That I couldn't cover in longer than 15 minutes, sorry.
I just want to jump in real quick. There are mayors in the county who are the emergency management coordinators.
Right.
I can't tell you how lucky we are
Oh, yeah.
that we have these professionals who do this for a living and who are exceptionally good at the work. They put forward, the best efforts on a daily basis, let alone in the emergency. And it shows at so many levels when you talk to mayors and other officials who don't have these resources and have never had the NIMS training, and they're given the keys to the kingdom and told to coordinate emergencies. We truly are blessed that our community can afford to do this and that we have such great people that do it. So
It is very evident whenever you go onto the onto the county's EOC and you see the other people just, all they say is, I need this, I need this, I need this. And there's nothing they're not helping themselves. And I would be remiss if I did not say that, I'm gonna sound a little cliche, we stand on the shoulders of giants. Going back to the 1980s, Grant Wilson was like the initial emergency management coordinator, and after that it became Chris Butler. And these guys set up this framework to the point where, if you remember the bird flu,
Yeah.
the avian flu, Chris Butler set up a whole cache of stuff for the bird flu that was never used. Whenever everybody else was looking for stuff during COVID, we had it.
Yeah.
We had enough for the entire municipality. We never went without a mask. We never went, and there was people out there that were starving for them. But we never went a day without one, so. And that's why that cache that they have is so important, so. Always setting up for the next one.
Cool.
Any other questions? All right.
All right. Yeah, thank you very, very much. This is excellent
We're
information.
both staying up here.
You are both staying up.
I skimmed this, because
I was gonna say, if you read the whole thing, well,
I started to read and I was like, oh my God, this won't fit in my head. There's so much in there. But I did go through it.
all right, moving on to the sorry, Mr. McGill. Go ahead.
No. It's your floor.
So we're gonna move on to the SOC, standards of cover. So a little bit about this document. I don't know how to make that big screen, Larry. You can take care of that. So, a couple of things. You have them on your agenda for tonight. The first one we'll talk about is the strategic plan. The strategic plan and the standards of cover are our primary documents for accreditation. So, again, for the newer commissioners in the room, the Mount Lebanon Fire Department is one of 133, I think, right now, accredited and ISO Class 1s in the country. So this is through the Center for Public Safety Excellence, and what happens is, how do you gauge how you're doing, right? So we decided that we did not want to be status quo. We wanted to continually improve, and that's what the accreditation model is. It's a continuous improvement model so that we just don't get stagnant. So every 5 years, we go through a cycle where the we write up what we do, and that's in what's called performance indicators. So there are 250 individual performance indicators across 11 categories. Government or governance and administration, assessment and planning. The assessment and planning is the standards of cover document. Goals and objectives, financial resources, community risk reduction, physical resources, human resources, training and competency, essential resources like water, IT, PIO, external systems, and then health and safety. So there's 250 performance indicators that we have to write what the description is, or how we do what that performance indicator is, how we're doing at it, and what's our plan to get better for all 250 of them. And it's painful. But it is important. So it identifies a lot of things that you may not understand, until you get into the crust of it. So one, what is our legal requirement for being a fire department? So is there, and it's in the charter, in the home rule charter, that says that the Mount Lebanon Fire Department is established on, all the stuff that's in there. So those are little things that we have to do, and we have to prove it. I'm not restarting. So that's kind of what the standards of cover and the SOC and accreditation is in a nutshell. And then we go down and every 5 years we go through this cycle, and we go down to a hearing where there are 11 or 12 commissioners of the accreditation commission, and they sit there and grill us and ask us questions for 15, 20 minutes about how we do, and then they vote whether we retain accreditation status or not. So that's kind of the process. The standards of cover document, we started this process in 2009, and what it does is it looks at our risks in Mount Lebanon, very specific to Mount Lebanon, and how we are going to address those risks. That's what this whole document is. So you got it, and so Commissioner Sweater Wilson, you perused it. What kind of questions do you have?
Maybe. What is that? And what is that? No, I mean, it's astoundingly comprehensive. Let me just say that. Actually, so this comes from my background dealing with architects for many, many years and in the built environment. And there's a lot of wood construction now, an awful lot of it. It can only do 3 floors or something, and then you have to switch to the steel beam. But I wondered how much that concerned you, that we had changed those kind of construction standards, shall we say, because that seems to me to be a much bigger fire risk.
So, yeah, the good thing is that we have the International Building Code, the International Fire Code,
Sure.
and our local amendments.
Yes.
And again, I said about we
Yeah.
stand on the shoulders of giants. Some of those guys, Chief D'Arcangelo, and even going back to Chief Walther. Chief Walther he was a fire codes guy and put in a lot of codes that actually are still helping us today. They were way beyond what was required at the time. For instance, Mainline, the townhomes, he required them to have sprinklers in them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, sprinklers, and then, but that was not in the code.
Sure.
The only challenge is that now, whenever they start to redo them, now we have to deal with some of those issues. Because now they're not required, and, they were required at the time, but now they're not required, so we get into a little bit of a headache there. But yeah, wood construction does concern us, but the good thing is that the building codes have kept up. They're always trying to play catch up, but they've caught up to protect those. So if you have what we're gonna call lightweight construction with all of the new construction materials, it has to be protected in some way, shape, or form. So sprinklers, fire alarms, drywall, fire breaks, firewalls.
Interesting. And how the other big concern I have is the electric car fires.
Electric
I park mine
vehicles.
outside.
Thank you.
Plug it in outside.
Uh,
I can't bring it in.
So there are some challenges with them,
Yeah.
and the fire service is behind the eight ball with the electric vehicles. The technology is progressing so fast, and we don't have a way to actually keep up with them. Again, Mount Lebanon, the new fire code does have stuff for electric vehicle charging in it, which is good. Talking to Mr. Sarver and a couple other folks, most of the problems that exist are not from the chargers, it's from the installation. And not following directions on the installation.
installation.
Yeah. And not using them in accordance with
Yeah.
the operating instructions.
Sure. And I'm sure that installation should have to be inspected, but people don't
Right.
always tell you.
Correct.
And you wonder why I'm a building code person. There you go, right there.
So yeah, that's kind of the basis of this document. It is large, and it's a living document. It gets
Yeah.
changed every year. So what'll happen is we have to formally adopt it via resolution
Yeah,
to prove to them that the municipality has,
Behind it.
you know, and it's not for us, it's really for the municipality
Yeah.
to hold us accountable to follow
Sure.
our plan.
so the places where I had questions, and we'll have to
Yeah.
do this offline, was the maps. I was looking at the maps and seeing, like red for high risk, and I'm like, where the heck is that? 'Cause of course,
Yeah.
it's like that big.
Yeah,
We can do that
yeah, it's probably,
offline,
so
but it's,
the little things that folk, like
Yeah.
group homes that
Yes.
are in Mount Lebanon, they're probably in a high-risk category
Okay.
because of the population. So that way,
Yes,
maybe why you
sure.
have a little red somewhere in the middle of
Okay.
a residential neighborhood.
that makes sense to me. Yeah, because I would look at that and think, what the heck could this possibly be?
And this is a conversation that I've been having with the chiefs all of
Yeah.
them at one point or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
another. Because the standards of cover is really important because it's
Yes.
it's the handoff
Yeah.
point between what the municipality
Mm-hmm.
says it wants in terms of safety coverage
Yes.
and what the fire department is going to deliver and plan toward.
Mm-hmm.
So if we say, right, and we go through this budget exercise every year, right, and we have these tiers of service, and they don't necessarily connect with reality, right? I think
Yeah.
that tier 5 service for the fire department is add a new station, right? So there's these huge jumps.
Sure.
This document really says, look, you want so many firefighters to respond in the
This amount of
appropriate
time.
apparatus in this amount of time, right? The station is almost secondary, right?
Right.
What is the level of service that we expect? And how do you deliver that? And this is, and a lot of agencies that I work with, right, this is an interesting challenge because, right, we say, yeah, we want this, right? And you always want it to be better, but how do you understand the cost? And how that level of service evolves through time, which is hard, right? It's a complex topic. We can say, yes, I want great public safety, but how do we translate that into good programs that support, right, the work that they're trying to do and understand the relationships of the journey that they're on, right? Whether it's emergency management or it's, buying a new apparatus or it's
Sure.
putting in a new station.
Right.
It's really complicated. And so this document really is, they do, again, like I said before, amazing work. But this really is, in many respects, a contract for service.
Right. It's also expensive, and I don't think the public recognizes oftentimes that there aren't efficiencies necessarily in preparedness.
Right.
You have fire engines, you have one for high-rise fires, you may never have a high-rise fire, but by God, if you do, you really need it.
Yeah.
So that's not efficient,
Right.
but you can't really plan in preparedness for efficiency, except to a certain extent, obviously.
100%.
But yeah, I think that's one of the most difficult concepts to get across to the public. And also that it's insurance. I mean, by making sure that this is done, we've ensured to the highest level we can that you're the safest we can make you.
And I think that's on, like, section 7 is probably the most important for the commission, and that's our benchmarks.
Yeah.
So that tells us what our call handling time should be, what our out the
Yep.
door time or scramble time should be. So how
Right.
fast can we get from wherever we're at in the station on the fire truck and responding?
Yeah.
So this is actually fairly interesting. NFPA 1700 which is the response models for fire service. We are a combination department, so we were required to meet what was called the old NFPA 1720 for combination departments. We actually meet the requirements for a career department because of the way that we've done things. So we actually use a career fire department as a benchmark. And we're still meeting those. Sometimes it's tough, but we're still meeting them.
So how about mutual aid? And I bring it up because I was at a gym the other day and a Mount Lebanon fire truck went by and I was in technically Upper St. Clair. And the gym owner looks at me because he knows that I'm in Mount Lebanon. He's like, why are they there? And I said, well, I don't know. It's probably, mutual aid in Upper St.
So it
Clair.
kind of goes both ways, so mutual
Yeah.
aid, but the one thing, and I know the county is talking about a lot of this, it's called an effective response force.
Yes.
ERF, and that's designated in here. So our ERF for a residential fire is 15 people. We need 15 people to,
Okay.
minimum,
That makes sense.
that's minimum.
Okay.
So how do we get those 15 people? Well, we only have, 3 on duty at a time,
Sure.
career-wise, and maybe a volunteer or 2. How do we get that 15 people? And we do that through mutual aid. And we keep track of their times as well. And every year, we evaluate this, right? So we'll evaluate if we're meeting our ERF and what we can do to fix that. So if Castle, and I'm just using this as an example, if Castle Shannon is not responding in an adequate amount of time, we'll add another department to supplement that.
Interesting, okay.
So
Because you don't have a lot of time in fires. That's really the whole
Annually,
point.
you will get an
Yeah.
update from me on,
Okay.
how we're doing and
Right.
what changes in this document.
Interesting. Well, it's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, amazing.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, but it's very impressive. It is pretty, very impressive.
Yeah.
What reputation well earned.
Thank you.
Yes, and we like that
So
iOS class
Deputy
one.
Chief Selander led the committee on this. There was a whole committee that put this thing together, so he led it.
And I want to say on the record, iOS class one, your homeowners is less expensive, so thank these guys. It is, because that's what it does.
Excellent.
Brings it down, absolutely.
Thank you for your time,
Sure.
greatly appreciate it, and
We should have more discussion sessions that are just the fire department. I like it.
Thank you, Deputy Chief.
That's right, everybody loves the fire department.
sorry, we took an extra 5 minutes.
Next up, we have an update with Josh Scanlon on Middle and Seymour Field renovations and the Bradford Park improvements.
Everybody also likes sports fields, so this is a good night.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioners. So we talked about these two projects briefly when we reviewed the potential bond issue projects a few
Yep.
discussion sessions ago, but both of these projects are on the agenda for final approval from the Commission tonight. So we wanted to run through them again so that everyone was aware of what the plans were. These are just site plans as of right now. The Commission will obviously vote on the bond issue later this year to fund them. So what is shown is subject to change based on what all gets funded in the bond issue. Some things may get funded in future phases of projects or things like that, but we wanted to show, the end goal on the site plan so that then whether or not the implementation gets phased in or is all funded this year, we had it all recorded as part of one site plan. So Josh Scanlon and Dan Dazroth from Gateway Engineers are here to kind of walk you through the plans a little bit. But if there's any questions on these plans before the Commission votes on them tonight, we're happy to answer them.
I'll go through Grafton first, and I have this presentation here. I also have the plans open if anybody has any more detailed questions. Feel free to stop me along the way, any questions you might have. So the agenda for the presentation here for Grafton, we'll just briefly go through a summary of the Parks Master Plan from EPD. We'll review the project site plans and how they address the master plan from EPD. And then we'll review allotted budget as well as opinion of cost for this project. And then at the end, we can go through any questions you might have. So summary of the Parks Master Plan, Rafferton Park was, there were infield improvements and fence improvements that were identified as a tier 1 priority, which essentially required action to preserve efficiencies. We addressed those improvements in 2023. We converted the infield to just a grass field and did some fence improvements. So I think it's worth noting that we are respecting those improvements with this plan and those fence improvements. So the remaining items for consideration of improvements included drainage, restroom facilities, fencing, pedestrian connections, play spaces, and parking. So this is a rendering of the site plan here to the right. But the goal of putting this plan together was essentially to maximize parking, but at the same time minimize impacts to the field itself. So we were able to.
And minimizing impacts to the wooded hillside too.
Yes.
Because we were able to kind
Correct.
of tuck the parking right at the foot of the slope.
Yep, we kind of pushed the parking into the hillside just a little bit to get us off of the field.
So the field's gonna stay the same?
It gets a little bit smaller. It went down by, I think, 4,000 or 5,000 square feet. We ended up shrinking a little bit in the north-south direction, but we also expanded to the east a little bit, over on the right side of the plan here. We were able to create 21 spaces here. We have the associated ADA space, and then we have an ADA connection to the play area over here.
Do we have any equipment in the play area?
We've not scoped out equipment for the play space yet.
But when we do, we'll consider.
Yes, the idea is to have half of the current basketball court be a multi-purpose sports court where you could still do basketball, you could do pickleball, maybe some
Right.
other things, and then have the other half be play
Play
equipment.
area.
But we have not scoped out specifics on the play equipment yet.
Interject one piece of information here. One of the things that happened when we converted this to just a multi-field use is that we started to program the facility more. So this is a park that has no dedicated parking other than a little cul-de-sac that's at the tail end. So I would get any number of phone calls, especially on a weekend when we had groups that were showing up and sort of overlapping with one another, and they were parking both sides of Rafferton, both sides of Fruithurst, and actually at some point creating a public safety issue because you really couldn't get an emergency response vehicle through that. Not to mention blocking people's driveways and
Fire hydrants?
the fire hydrants and all sorts of other things. At one point, we actually had police go up during certain days when we knew we had a lot of programming and sign one side of, I think, Fruithurst as no parking, just to try to mitigate the public safety issue. So it was really important when we started to look at Rafferton to be able to provide some type of off-street parking to, again, mitigate those impacts.
One other thing, I believe at the previous meeting, Commissioner Swagger Wilson asked about a potential cost estimate for the walking
Trail,
path to
yeah.
connect Rafferton down to Valley Park Drive. Josh pulled that together, it was about $220,000.
Okay, so now I have even more questions about it. Of course.
We do have that in towards the
All right.
end of the slide.
Sorry if I was-
I was gonna say, we can pull up like an overall plan and look at that too, if that.
Well, I mean, you can keep going, but yes, then we'll have to get back to that. Okay. Have some thoughts?
We do separate the field and the parking area with a 10-foot tall fence, just to protect vehicles through there. The basketball court, that'll be converted to the play area. And then we master plan the site to show the future trail around here and a location for potential future restroom.
And we did coordinate with Phil Volio a lot on his suggestions.
Good.
to-
Yes,
to
he
things
has
He's
here.
good suggestions on
Yeah.
the trail.
Good.
And he was happy to make the field more rectangular, pushing out on the further side so they can program it better and get like 2 full fields in there, even though we're losing a little bit of square footage.
You ready for me yet?
Fire away.
All right, so, in reading through some of this, the thing that struck me was when we talk about ways to get around our town, I think we have to think in a multimodal way, which means not just walking, not just biking, not just riding your bike, but all of those things, and how can we maximize? So that trail connection to me, when I was looking at it on the first page map right here, seems to me a tremendous missed opportunity. And so I understand that people don't like spending a lot of money on parking, but if you want people to be riding their bikes to it, you also have to consider that the most dangerous place to ride your bike is down a street where people open car doors into you and knock you off your bike. It's really hazardous. So removing some of the cars, or as many as we can, into the field area makes sense. But also enabling kids to get there in a way other than riding their bikes, having mom and dad drop them off, but walking seems to me to be really important. And it would really make sense to go ahead and extend that trail up. But further, let's look at these connections coming down the road right here, because we have to think holistically about this stuff. So you might have a walking path up to here, but if a lot of kids live over here, we ought to be looking at these cross connections to make sure they can get across the street safely, so that we're really, really making it a whole approach to how we get people to this park in as many different ways as possible. So, end of lecture, but I really feel like we would get more bang for our buck. And I understand completely that we only have so much money, but it seems to me to be able to do a whole project like that, where you really were able to make it all work all the way to all the neighborhoods surrounding it, would be more bang for our buck than sort of nickel and diming, we'll put in this improvement here and that improvement there. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I know
Absolutely look at it.
it's all about money, I get it, but it's kind of, I was looking at it and feeling very many lost opportunities. Mr. Mobility, do you have anything to say about my lecture?
I agree 100%. No, I think you're spot on. And for me, this goes back more, I think, the financial issue, which is, again, our community is built out, so it's hard for us to do this.
It is.
But these are the investments that you make now, and it benefits for the next 100 years. Yes, it's not fun to bite that bullet, but better to do it right than to do it half-baked and not have the result that you're
Yeah, not have
hoping
really
for.
the change in culture that you need to make that really sing.
Right, so I personally, I 100% agree with you from a mobility perspective, but I also agree, I think more structurally, that if we're gonna make the investment, let's make the investment. Otherwise, let's wait until we're ready to make the investment.
So I'd like to see the trail added to the bond issue.
Okay, that was gonna be my next question was, so do you want
course.
us to,
Well, I mean, the rest of the commission asked, I mean, at least to see the numbers would be helpful. I obviously can't make that decision on my own, but perhaps that's something we could consider.
but everyone is still good if the current plan as drawn up is on the agenda tonight for approval?
I'm okay with it, I am.
Yes.
I just want us to really start thinking out there.
Any other questions on Brafferton before we move to Main Park?
Jump over to the main park. This is just a quick slide we had on the budgets. Okay, jump over to Seymour Field renovation. So same idea, we'll go through the master plan, project overview, review costs. Again, feel free to, any questions you have along the way.
Careful what you ask for.
That's why we're here, so. Okay, so this plan was drawn up, to support the Patrick MPR and Draw Collective master plan for Marine Park there. There's a handful, 19 different improvements that were proposed as part of the master plan, ranging from field improvements, parking improvements, different areas for residents to seat, et cetera. The screen's a little bit hard to read, but the next screen will show.
And some of those 19 dealt with Dixon Field and the parking lot between Dixon and Middlefield, which is not part of this site plan update and not part of this project that's being proposed for the bond issue, but we do have other future ideas for those areas as well.
For the area right between the two? Is that what you're talking about? We're only talking about this is the only new area down here, right?
In the
The turf fields are getting replaced too,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
yes.
yeah, but, okay.
And some associated updates there. I don't want to steal your thunder, Josh, go ahead.
So this plan addresses the needs for additional parking. There's additional hillside seating proposed, bleachers, bike racks. There's a higher fence between Cedar Boulevard and the field. And then we have some bollard protection proposed between the parking lot and the fields on the eastern side.
There's a pretty big grade change between the field and Cedar. Is a higher fence necessary? And I don't know, you know. My kids were never sports stars, trust me.
You have to move the fence further in towards home plate,
Okay,
so it has to be elevated slightly to compensate for that, to keep the same.
all right.
Again, the fence stuff was all Phil suggestions that he gets from
Yeah,
people to use it.
that's fine, sure, that's fine.
Yeah, so one of the things that we added, it's kind of hard to see on this plan, but it was one of the requests from the Baseball Association, was if you notice, by the bottom end of the green turf fields, behind the new fence, there's a sidewalk that runs the whole length of the
Yes.
field. And the Baseball Association wanted that, but that also helps us connect our ADA parking
Yes.
spaces between the parking lot between Dixon and Middle and the new parking area down to the
Right.
southern end. So adding that sidewalk space at the foot of the hillside is why we had to bump the fence in a little bit.
Well, it gives you the connection if we end up putting in bathrooms
Yes,
up here between the two.
correct,
You need that.
yes. And the Baseball Association wanted it because they have storage lockers all
Yeah,
over the place
yeah.
and sheds where they move things between, so they,
Wheelchairs don't go on grass and gravel well.
yes.
You need pavement.
And then alongside that too, we have some built-in hillside seating proposed, hopefully to get people to stop putting their lawn chairs on the actual sidewalk that's meant for pedestrians and to actually sit on the hillside space that's there. So that's the gray area kind of in the middle of the fields by the midline of the soccer field there. New turf proposed, there's some new lights that are proposed around the field to light the fields. I think those are highlighted in yellow a little bit.
Can I ask a question on the
Yes.
turf? Someone, and I'm no expert on turf, but someone had mentioned something about new quality turf that is longer or it's better on knees and on ankles. It has a more natural feel to it. Are we upgrading to a higher quality?
Sure.
I will defer to the engineers and Phil Avolio on that one. I don't know if we've scoped out what exact type of turf we're gonna use yet, but for right now, this is mostly just the site plan of what we want to put there.
that's all we-
But that's a great question that we will look into
Yeah,
when we
it-
actually
it's-
scope out.
It's one of those questions, right, that,
It's a changing technology.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you definitely wanna, we'll interview and see what's the best, but we have a guy named Jim Sauer on our team, and Jim's a field expert, he puts fields in everywhere, so we'll consult with Jim.
And do the athletic associations have to pay anything at all in terms of getting the new turf? Because was that part of the initial agreement when we put in the initial turf, because they did pay a percentage of it? And does that grandfathered into this?
Yes, so we've been, and I don't know if Andrew McCreary or anyone from finance is on, they can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we've been using some of those athletic association fees over time. We've been saving and dedicating towards the turf replacement. So we have a small pot of money, actually not too small, a decent sized amount of money. It won't fully cover it, but it'll cover some of it to go towards the turf replacement that we've been collecting from association fees over time.
Okay.
And then just to wrap up the southern end of the site here, the parking area that's proposed is essentially just formalizing what's there right now between the gravel area. There is a deed restriction that several properties on V-Lane have about how close we're allowed to build to the back of their property line. So that's why there's that sort of triangle shape between the dark property line and then where we're putting the edge of our drive aisle. So the proposal here is to have a drive aisle come in off of Cedar, all the way around, and then Gateway ran turning templates on it, so school buses will be able to make this turnaround through, and then have it be essentially a one-way loop through the parking area. You see there'll be a little plaza there where we'll have some bike racks, there'll be ADA spaces by the plaza, and there will be bollards across all of that to prevent people from driving up and around the hillside and into the neighbors' backyards that are adjacent to this, like they do sometimes now. And a lot of what we were trying to do with the formalization of parking is to get people to stop parking in grassy areas, stop parking in the neighbors' backyards. We put a lot of landscaping along the backside of this, and even in the middle, you can see in the medians, there's proposed landscaping there too, to try and make sure that people don't hop the curb and pull off into the grass anyways, that to keep the cars where they're supposed to be.
How many spaces are we getting there?
73.
Okay.
That's 73 total, there's existing
40,
space.
Yeah, 40 additional, 33 existing.
Yeah.
Good. Yep, I like it.
Page for the rest of this, I think we talked on the project scope. Feedback we got from planning board, we were able to incorporate in here, this is
Right.
just a list of those items.
Yeah.
Let's picture the field lighting.
So the lighting, the blue lights are existing,
Yes, blue is existing.
they'll be
red are new.
upgraded, and the red ones are new lights. With the technology we have on the lights now, they can be very well directed and very efficient.
Right.
As little effect on adjoining properties as possible.
Yeah.
So.
And with the lights,
Solar?
so the lights down in the parking
Parking lot will be
area
solar.
will be the solar ones.
Solar ones
that
and
we
the
have.
other ones,
Yeah.
okay. Just
The-
curious.
Yeah, the field lights will now be able to be on a timer that's controlled by an app rather than manual. So the
Nice.
ones there now are manual. So sometimes the last people to use the fields don't remember to turn them off, so they're on late at night. But now Phil Avolio, our Parks and Facilities Coordinator, will have access to an app on his phone where he can control the lights and the timer, so we'll be able to actually turn the lights off when they're supposed to be turned off.
Do we keep them on till like 10 or something, or what is?
It's in our ordinance for what the hours of operation are for different parks. I think, is David here? I don't want to speak out of turn. It may change slightly with like summer hours versus winter hours, but I think it's 10:30, but I don't want to say the wrong thing. That's what I think it is though.
It is 10:30, Ian.
Thanks, David.
Yeah, thanks,
All right,
David.
there we go.
Yep.
So that is also on the agenda tonight for site plan approval. So once the site plans are approved, then we can record those, and then we'll move into the funding phases of the projects next.
Can I
Yes.
a couple other little things, because I get this every night lately at home, is close the curtains, turn down the lights, because birds are migrating, and we have to protect the birds. I'm curious, it prompted me to think about the dark sky
Yeah.
compliance.
That's like goes down, yeah.
And I know these are big lights, and they're intended to be big lights, right? And we need to light the field, I get it. But how do we mitigate the worst effects of high-powered lights, so that we are not creating unnecessary light pollution. And are we thinking about that as we select the lighting? Because I know the technology is changing rapidly, so there's got to be, better solutions out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
The latest, I just put lights in another municipality, and the latest lights are all LED, they're all super energy efficient, and they minimize any impacts. They put them up, they adjust them that they're just on the field, we're not trying to spill any of the light over anywhere. And again, energy efficiency and all those things that we think about with lighting, so whatever it is, we'll get the latest technology and apply it.
And so they go straight down instead of going up.
We can do more with the aiming on them, it's
Yeah.
almost like the lights are much better we have on Washington Road.
Right, yeah,
of
because they
that
don't go up
technology.
anymore, they're dark sky friendly.
Yes.
They don't, yeah. Tremendous.
We're lighting the fields, not the whole neighborhood.
Yeah, well, again, for me, this just goes back to,
No, I know.
if we're gonna do this,
Right,
do it right, right?
Do it right.
And Commissioner Siegler, right, is a stickler on design quality, and I truly appreciate that. I wish I had the aesthetic sense, but I hate to admit it, but when I see a nice bollard,
Right,
it makes a difference,
it does make a
right?
difference,
They are aesthetically pleasing
Yeah.
and they're functional.
that's right.
I don't just want a steel thing sticking out of the ground at a beautiful park. Do it right. Design it right, right? I would rather invest once than have junk, because this is Mount Lebanon and we should be proud. And when we welcome people into the community, right, I want people to go, wow, this is amazing, right? Up St. Clair, you always hear they have beautiful fields and right, and all that, but they have these huge spaces, right, that are clean greenfield builds. We don't have that, but we can focus on quality. So how do we do that and make sure that we're not cutting corners to save a few pennies when the long-term investment is much more important? That's just leave that for you as we contemplate building this out.
Function can be beautiful.
It can, and we have to be willing to invest in it.
Yeah, well stated, thank you. I very much appreciate it.
All right, any other final questions on this plan? It is also on the agenda tonight for approval.
Excellent.
Thank you, commissioners. I'm staying up here for a
You're
meeting.
staying up here, and Mr. Sukul is joining us, I believe.
Rudy Suku, our Public Works Director, will be joining us as well.
Flynn loves a good bollard.
They're amazing. All right, so the final item on our discussion session this evening is a summary of some ideas we have for the Public Works right-of-way coordinator, right-of-way manager position. We don't have a finalized title for it yet. This was an idea that Commissioner Flynn brought up a while back and then got further discussed at the commission retreat we had back in April. I know I mentioned it at a high level when I did my summary of topics that the commission had kind of labeled as priorities coming out of that retreat, but we wanted to make sure that the commission and staff were on the same page with what we were thinking this position would do before you see it in an upcoming budget presentation, because those budget presentations can contain a lot of information. So before we roll this forward to something that you'll see potentially for funding in the budget, we wanted to make sure that we were on the right page with what the commission's vision for what this position would entail, as well as identifying some current needs that Rudy has through the Public Works Department. So the department obviously performs a variety of complex administrative, supervisory, technical duties, and due to changing regulations, a lot of those duties have increased with additional service requests. We are a community that was built a long time ago, including a lot of aging infrastructure. So we've continually, the commission knows, made investments and have done plans, including our active transportation plan, which is just about wrapped up, and we will be discussing that very soon in the future. So as we're talking about implementing these plans and keeping up with all these requests, the thought was that additional capacity is needed between the planning office, the Public Works Department, to oversee a lot of this implementation for these plans and to oversee a lot of things that happen within the right-of-way. And this is a position that other communities have similar type positions. So we thought this might be a good idea for something to move forward for commission consideration when we get into budget discussions later this year. So this is just as an example. I know we're a little short on time, so I'll kind of skim through the examples, but there's just a lot of stuff that happens within the right-of-way, even within a given intersection, beyond just the streets and the sidewalks for what's there. There's a lot more that happens with traffic signals, with underground infrastructure, and with everything else there. So one of the primary duties we identified for this position is helping to implement the active transportation plan. One of the key pieces of the plan is going to be the recommended process for how installations and improvements get considered through the mobility board, recommended to the commission, and ultimately the commission may decide to fund them or put them as part of a larger capital project, do them maybe as part of the street reconstruction program. How we're going to do that is a key piece of what the active transportation plan is going to recommend. This position would also serve as a liaison to the mobility board, helping to facilitate some of those discussions with the mobility board to make sure that the implementation of the plan was following the established process. In addition to that, there's other coordination of projects that happen within the right-of-way. There's our sidewalk expansion program, which we've continued on. There's our general street reconstruction and resurfacing program that, as we're considering some of these active transportation improvements, some of those may get linked in with some of the street reconstruction work that's happening, because the idea is if we're going to be replacing the street, we want to have a vision for what it should be when it goes back in. As well as just inspection, oversight, and overall maintenance of improvements that are made to streets, sidewalks, curbs, things like that, whether it's by the municipality, by a utility company, by a private property owner. Having someone to go out and do those inspections after those improvements are done, we need to make sure, if someone has to do a street opening permit to replace a sewer lateral or something like that, having someone on staff that can go out and make those inspections to make sure they're put back into municipal standards is very beneficiary. So some more on the active transportation plan implementation. I think I've talked a lot about this already, but really helping to facilitate, coordinate with the mobility board and overall tracking of the implementation of these projects, coordinating with the public works director, engineer, and commission on the overall final improvement recommendations, and then being that liaison, one of the staff liaisons to the mobility board to help kind of push some of the vision of the active transportation plan through. So another, as we mentioned, another duty of the manager is overseeing the work that happens within the right-of-way. So Rudy, I don't know if you want to talk at all, or Dan, about the work that happens now between the engineering and public works as far as street maintenance projects, sidewalk expansion. Obviously, the commission knows a lot about that. There's a lot of work and coordination that goes into that between the engineers designing the plans, between the private property owners that we're talking to and getting agreements with, street opening permits and 811 requests.
Right, so I mean, basically, we put these programs together and we try to avoid the school areas and things of that nature. So there are a lot of moving parts that we try to fit together when these programs are developed. We do these things pretty much every year. We reconstruct streets, we do sewer work, we resurface streets, we do some type of sidewalk work, and now we've even added the new sidewalk installation to our program. So there's quite a bit, and a lot of this is done by committee. We have folks on our staff, and we've kind of fit these things into our process, but we're starting to get spread pretty thin. So I would like to see a lot more done with the inspection end of it, especially on street opening permits, when utilities and private plumbers and those type of that type of work is being done. Right now, it's basically, we kind of pop in when we can, but there's no structure to have a person that can actually go out and make sure we're getting 11 inches of asphalt, the proper backfill, it's compacted properly, so that, the investment that we've made in all of our infrastructure is protected, because, we have some pretty stringent standards for the repairs that our utilities have to do. And, we benefit from that as well, because we set it up so that the infrastructure is maintained in the way that we've set it up, so.
Especially with all the utility work that's been happening. I mean, I've noticed that, from an active transportation standpoint, even if,
we don't have dedicated bike lanes, but people do bike on our streets, right? And if you have a lot of utility saw cuts through the roads, if they're not backfilling those in the proper manner, or, you know, repairing the roads or fixing the sidewalks in the proper manner, that can be a big impediment to mobility. So,
It's not only that, it's the coordination and the communication as well.
Right.
You know, it's real tough. If you have a person dedicated to that, you have one person where the information goes, and you could disseminate that through PIO and so forth, you know. Right now, we get things thrown at us every day, and, you know, it changes daily too. With emergency work, there was a 20-inch water line that broke last weekend up on Fire Hill Road by Mapleton, and, you know, that was, the road was shut down for 2 days. So, you know, those are things that you have to work into your schedule as well.
The question from me, specifically for Public Works, is, I see, right, your core function and your best use, right, where you really shine is in execution, right? Getting things done. But that is different than what should we do, right? And why should we want to do it? And so how does this role help Public Works versus just become another thing that you've got to interact with?
Well,
That is a barrier, or is it a barrier? I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think that you know, the task of this position would be to do some of those extra things that we just don't frankly have the time right now to do. You know, we're focused on getting the work done and making sure it's coordinated and making sure we're minimizing the impact on the community, motorists, schools, you know, all of those type of things. So that's our whole focus and our goal right now, and structured. And, you know, we frankly don't really think a lot about implementing the newer things. And I think that's what this position would do. And you know, then we would have conversations about that. Will this work? Will it work here? Will it not work here in different areas? So, you know, it's all new to us. I mean, I'll be the first to admit I'm not an expert in, you know, the different.
You're an expert in so many things.
Well, but not that. Not that.
Tell him that, I try to tell him.
So I liked our planning session, but it left me somewhat appalled by the amount of things that we have to get done with the people we have, and how the possibility for something slipping could happen through nobody's fault or intent, but because we're stretched so thin. So part of me says, yes, absolutely, this is extremely essential. But what's missing from this is going to go right back to what Andrew said, which to me is, who is the person who's going to start to do the design connectivity thinking that we really need in the long run? Is that,
I think
yeah,
if you go to the next slide, when you talk about
Okay.
the sidewalk expansion projects,
yeah,
the second bullet point where it says work with municipal engineer to develop a design and bid the expansion project, it's that develop a design piece that I think needs to carry through not only to the sidewalk expansion projects, but
the
to our
whole
street
thing.
reconstruction,
The
street
whole thing.
resurfacing.
Yes.
We need that person with a little bit of a, I don't know, planner background, design.
planner, surveying, somebody who's got
Look
that
at something and say,
aerial view, looks at it from
Yeah,
up here.
if we're
Right.
reconstructing a street, or
Right.
even if we're just resurfacing
Yeah.
a street, what other improvements could we make that sort of fit with the active transportation to make this a more user-friendly street, right? Do we shorten a radius for an intersection? Do we put a crosswalk somewhere where there's not one now? Is there the opportunity to, again, start to build out some better connectivity? I think that, I would also like to see that this person have that skill set.
Yes,
Where does this position reside in the organization?
In terms of
Hierarchy. Organizational hierarchy.
I believe that it was envisioned that it would be part of Public Works, but also have input from, the municipal planner, as well as the guy that can't keep himself out of everything, which is me. Because again, for 13 years, that's what I did.
No, I know, your participation is important. No, I think my question is more, again, organization
Yeah.
in terms of where does it sit? Because that's where the focus is going to reside and the primary responsibility that the role is going to have. My instinct, not to take away resources from Rudy, but is that this is a planning function more than it is a public works function. That liaises directly primarily with public works,
Right.
but is planning in its core philosophy, I guess.
I actually wondered if you needed more than one person, perish the thought. But the kind of person that I'm envisioning on this does have those that skill set. And maybe they're not the ones who are doing, these awful calls where you have to go do the PA one call stuff, which felt to me more like, and I don't know what I'm talking about so much, so you can count it, it's okay. But, maybe with PA one call, that is a position which is more of a coordinator and less of a
More of an
design
inspector.
person. Yes, I mean, maybe you
Inspector,
need a
yeah.
halftime inspector person, and I'm making it all up.
Yeah.
But maybe you need that kind of person to be doing some of this, and that frees the other person to be doing more of the planning.
Yeah, I tend to fall that way as well, or that's my thinking, because I think one of our frustrations of the commission often has been that we are, residents have said repeatedly, we want it to be safer, we want it to be more walkable, we want to do these things.
Lost
and
opportunities.
And so we as the commission certainly want that, but I think it's been difficult to implement because it's not really anyone's job.
And
I
yet,
don't think that, and there's not the one person to interface with all those different departments that it takes. That's, goes over to the police department as well, and planning, and infrastructure, and all these different things, and mobility. So I think it's got to be a position that does.
But that inspection function is huge. I mean,
I
I'm
think
with
it's
you on,
important. I really think it's
I
important.
don't
It's
disagree at all. You put it in, you put the drainage in wrong, there goes the street.
Right,
You
right.
know that.
And you won't know for a year or two until it starts to fall apart.
That's right.
Yeah.
And one of our
Yeah.
thoughts too was that, I think to the commission's point, this may wind up being something
You can always.
Where-
You just can't start it.
Yeah.
this may wind up being something where we need multiple people to do this
Yes.
function. But I think our proposal was gonna be, let's hire one person first, see what the workload is, and then if we need to expand the role, divvy up jobs more, propose more positions, rather than proposing 2 or 3 positions all at once. I'm the municipal planner, so I will never say no to having more people in the planning office. I think the way we had envisioned this was that it would be sort of a parallel to Phil Avolio in Public Works, where
Right.
Phil is our Parks and Facilities
Right.
Coordinator and oversees all the work that goes into
So
the
fabulous.
parks, does all the inspections in the
Yeah.
parks, he's a certified playground inspector, but also is involved with some of the planning efforts of what's
Correct.
going to happen with the parks
He's
in the
wonderful.
future.
It's
Um,
really a diamond.
So this would be kind of the parallel right-of-way position to what Phil is for our parks and facilities.
We had talked about, even to Jeff's point, and Andrew said it before, we had talked about even potentially later this year. We will probably have at least a reasonably good handle on next year's
Yes.
road program, right? Reconstruction, resurfacing.
Mhm.
Let's put us, this group, in a room. Let's roll those plans out. Let's take a look at that. See what it actually takes from a planning standpoint to actually, because that'll give us a sense of, one, skill set that we need to have and whoever that person is going to be, but also time. Because to Ian's point, Bill does both implementation and planning, right? If we can find sort of that mix here, I think we can make it work. Am I gonna tell you that it's gonna be able to address all of Rudy's, time needs that he has now?
Right.
No, but we need to start somewhere, and I'd like to start by getting at least a year out in advance of our street and road program, and then move that to maybe 3 years or longer if we can.
If you just take Seth's emails off of Rudy's list and this guy, this individual handles them, we should be in good shape.
We always welcome
Commissioners
residents.
are not allowed to call Rudy. Like, Rudy!
So we will bring this back to you as,
Okay, yeah.
thank you very much
So
for
we're
the
on your
conversation.
side, we're just like trying to figure out the best way to do it. Yeah.
Good topic to discuss.
Yeah.